Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Paul. The history I have prepared is by wall murals. They're large. Here are the dimensions. We're going to focus on two murals. The first modern revival, 1890, 1940, and then a preliminary mural to remember and honor blacksmiths over these 300 years. We'll also look at three other documents, and as explained by Patrick, the perspective at this time is from North America, but maybe these murals will inspire others in Europe to do similar histories for graphic display. I used Inkscape, a software for graphics. It's free and open source. Now, the emphasis you will see is on the French. I've given reasons here. I won't dwell on these, but we can return to those if you have questions. So this is the major mural. I admit it is complex. You'll see that there are, in vertical, major events in the world history: World War I, Great Depression, World War II, and we're descending. We'll speak about each. There are three sets of notes: prologue, rise and fall, epilogue. And we're going from orange to yellow to gray, because I will explode this. We're speaking of the revival, but also its demise by 1940. I've noted the expositions. This is a major one in Paris, and for Marceau, 1925 Paris. And here are other years. One can also use the smartphone to look at the quick response code. This will go to Wikipedia. And here, French Wikipedia, Belgium Wikipedia, and so forth. Also for reference, the history of ornament and architecture across nearly 1,000 years. Very small, we'll look at technology too. And this is a sample. We're all familiar with Art Nouveau, or Jugendstil in Germany. I believe we're all familiar with Edgar Brandt, Subs, Kiss. Again, the codes. Then in Italy, Caligaris. What the wall mural shows is a battle of aesthetics, handicraft versus machine. And we're proceeding in reaction to these styles, exemplified by Victorian in Britain and North America, Gothic revival also in Britain and North America, colonial revival in the United States of America. There's a reaction. First arts and crafts, Art Nouveau, then Art Deco, then Haute Moderne. And finally, there's a reaction to all of these with functionalism and international style. And again, with color, orange to yellow to gray. But this reaction begins earlier, as we'll see in the next slide. The German Adolf Loos, he has the influential essay titled Ornament and Crime. We have German and English. You can read these. But there had been too much ornament in architecture and in interior design. And this will have a damaging influence on blacksmithing, as it was known then. In the same era, the Wuchbund, German and English. And here we are. And that is what we are today. But there was a reaction, or say almost an antagonism, towards the small blacksmith shop. There is a row in the mural on literature, and there are numerous documentation. We have Robert with his essays, and these are available online at the Internet Archives. This is the quick response code. Also, Robert publishes a portfolio of his company's work. The Germans, Britain, and I'm familiar with this library. It's in the Louvre. And these are binders by which the librarians cut out photographs and designs from magazines and journals and place them in the books. And these go back more than 100 years. It's a wonderful resource. And you may know, or you may not know, that the term Art Nouveau arrives from Samuel Bing's shop in Paris. Here's literature at the end of the revival. I'm showing gray. We have Subs still publishing, but it's showing a modern style. Fritz Kuhn becomes prominent in Germany and beyond. And this book was required reading in the schools of architecture in North America 40 years ago, 30 years ago. And here's technology. And each of these diminishes the art of blacksmithing. We have the cast iron, the power hammers, oxyacetylene, which is prevalent at the 1925 exposition in Paris. Then alternative materials, and then the electric welding. And these are at the bottom of the wall mural. The apex is Paris 1925, the exposition of the arts decorative and industrial. We have Brandt, Subs, Kiss, the others. And there are portfolios filled with photographs of the ironwork. And this ironwork was throughout the exposition. About 20 years ago, a United States student for her master's degree prepared her thesis on Egbert Brandt. And later it became a large hardbound book still available. And I should note that down here, Kiss was a friend of Gishner, who was the father of my mentor. And this Fred Gishner acquired the Kiss collection of Art Deco ironwork. So when I was introduced to blacksmithing 45 years ago, I was surrounded by this authentic Art Deco ironwork. And what should be interesting for a scholarly paper, for scholarly research, would be how certain blacksmiths responded to the modern movement, how they adapted to the international style. And you would know these blacksmiths: Bergmeister, Habermann, Kuhn, Benetton, and Gelida. We're now moving to the next wall mural, again from 1700, with Jean Tujou, a Huguenot who departed France and the Netherlands for Britain. And he worked for the court of King William and Queen Mary, and also Diderot, Lemur. But then we move quickly to last century. Many of these names are in North America. You might be familiar with the work of this North American blacksmith. This man creates power hammers, as does this man. And for that wall mural, I'm creating an ebook where each name will have a biography. And Richard Quinnell is now retired, but still active in the field of blacksmithing as a supporter. And I studied for 1 month in his shop in the winter of 1978. So, observations. The artisan trades go up, they fall down, they rise again. But a fallen trade, such as blacksmithing, can be revived within 1 generation. And here are 2 examples. This was a team of 5 blacksmiths, men and women, who made a door knocker in the Gothic style in 1998. More recently, this fantastic plaque of hot and cold repoussé by Doug Pryor. And unless a blacksmith is in a publication, he or she will fade from the internet and thus history. In United Kingdom, there was Tommy Tucker. He was the instructor with the Council for Small Industries in Rural Areas. That British office published more than 4 books on decorative ironwork, and he is the blacksmith within them. but you go to the internet now, it's difficult to find information on Tommy Tucker. It's not so for Emile Robert and Fritz Kuhn because they are published. He has essays. Fritz Kuhn has his books. So I am thinking that this decade is the time to preserve the record of our mentors and others. And the big question is, despite the current revival in North America, will blacksmithing fall again? So now we'll go to other wall murals. So this is the second modern revival. The first one ended 1940, and we're in the gray. But in North America, as we say here, there's a revival over the past 50 years. And we have literature and exhibitions, schools, persons and events, tools and equipment. So blacksmithing is increasingly popular in North America, and we have more and more schools being created. Down here, especially in North America, we have the manufacture of power hammers, both mechanical and compressed air, from very large to very small. So this could be 800 pounds, 25 pounds. And the nature of power hammers has evolved in 40 years. Here we have long handles, elongated head. But then we have the Czech style, or the Yuri Hofi style, short handle, stubby head. And then more recently, what we call the rounding hammer. No longer is there a cross peen, but a round face. And currently I'm working on the history of Abana itself. We started in 1973, but it was preceded by certain milestones. We have the 2 publications. We've had conferences every 2 years. We had much volunteer work by blacksmiths serving as presidents. So this will be filled in. All this will be filled in. And maybe this will be on display in October, where we have the festival to dedicate our new home office in Pennsylvania. And we thank you once again for the bouquet of forged flowers. And this is for information. You may find some inspiration, but Abana is recording its history, and we have an online archive of files and photographs. We use Groups.io. It's free for 1 gigabyte. Then we now are paying $220 for 30 gigabytes. This is an example of the file structure. So we have information on our conferences, our finances, insurance, all the administrative work in one place. So maybe that's helpful for some of your groups. We're at the end. Taking your questions. Paul had provided the link previously, Paul and Patrick. So the link for the 2 large wall murals, the 2 revivals are here. And if you ever wish to receive the PDF, I shall send you the PDF. upon your request at historyabana.org. Okay, I'm open to questions.
Okay, so there has come the first question, which is it policy from Abana to make this wall mural, or did you do this on your own initiative? So in German, ist das allgemeine Herangehensweise von Abana, oder hast du diese Infotafel auf eigene Faust gemacht? And the answer is?
The answer, I made the wall mural of the second revival first on my own initiative. And because of that, Abana recruited me for its board of directors to be the lead for Abana History and Archives. I then make the wall mural for first revival. So Paul, say, it's all my initiative, but being welcomed by Abana.
John hat das zweite moderne Wiedererstehen zuerst gemacht auf eigene Initiative. Das wurde von Abana-Vorstand allerdings sehr begrüßt und unterstützt, und dadurch wurde John in den Vorstand berufen, um auch die zweite zu machen, und ist jetzt da auch verantwortlich für das Archiv. Well, the next question from Mariano. How you think this affects the future, the new movement of blacksmiths around the world? And translated to German, wie denkst du, wird die Zukunft und die neue Schmiedebewegung in der Welt dadurch beeinflusst?
I will give you a North American perspective. As you may know, the Forged in Fire television series has made blacksmithing popular, at least in the way of knife making. But I believe the interest is shallow. It does not have depth. And by offering the history graphically, especially photographs of the variety of work over time, I hope, and Abana hopes, to inspire the new blacksmiths to think of many opportunities in forging hot steel. Does that help your question, Mariano?
Well, I hope so. While there comes Mariano maybe answers, I translate to German. Also, es ist folgendermaßen: In Amerika ist vor allem durch Forged in Fire, die Serie kennt bestimmt auch der eine oder andere, das Interesse an Schmieden, besonders an Klingenschmieden, wieder erstarkt. Also da gibt es jetzt wieder ein größeres Interesse und das ist populärer geworden. Allerdings denkt John zumindest, dass dieses Interesse relativ, also nicht wirklich tiefgehend ist, sondern nur oberflächlich. Und dadurch, dass man die Geschichte auch offeriert und die Geschichte aufzeigt, hofft Abana, das Interesse zu stärken und zu festigen und auch zu vertiefen, damit das weitergehen kann. What is your personal opinion? Will blacksmithing fall again? If so, what can we do to stop this process? And in German, was ist deine eigene persönliche Meinung? Wird Schmieden wieder weniger populär, wieder fallen, also wieder weniger im Vordergrund stehen, weniger populär sein? Und falls, was können wir tun, um diesen Prozess abzumildern oder vielleicht sogar zu verhindern?
Paul, I think in matter of decades, so when Patrick Beck is 70 or 80 years old, the world will have changed. And maybe it will be 80 more years or 100 years, but history shows us that blacksmithing goes up and down, as do the artisan trades. So history does repeat. I think, though, we have much more documentation especially for instructions. And those books are in the libraries. I believe we'll always have YouTube with videos. But I think so we'll have safeguards to keep blacksmithing healthy, but the interest may wane, culture will change, and there could well be a decline in blacksmithing, but it could take, again, 80 years, 50 years.
Yeah, so I translate this to German briefly. Ja, John ist der Meinung, ja, das wird wahrscheinlich passieren, weil Geschichte sich wiederholt. Und es wird dieses Mal eventuell länger dauern, vielleicht kürzer dauern. Ein Vorteil ist, dass jetzt Sachen anders und eventuell auch besser dokumentiert sind. Also es gibt mehr Bücher in den Bibliotheken, es gibt YouTube und andere Möglichkeiten, Sachen auf Video aufzuzeichnen und andere Formate auf Video aufzuzeichnen. Und das macht das wahrscheinlicher, dass also Teile der Schmiedekunst erhalten bleiben. Allerdings, da Geschichte das mit den, ja, genau wie mit den Künsten auf und ab geht, wird es wahrscheinlich auch hier wieder ein Auf und Ab geben. We go to the next one, which is from Eggtown Crew. I wonder how the World Wars affected blacksmithing in America compared to Europe. Could you perhaps say some words about that? Thank you. So in German. Vielen Dank für die Präsentation. Ich wundere mich, wie die Weltkriege die Schmiedekunst oder Schmieden generell in den USA beeinflusst haben. Könntest du eventuell etwas dazu sagen? Vielen Dank.
I believe, I should say, I am educated as an engineer. I'm not a scholar in the history of decorative arts. So all this is my personal research. But I believe that the community of young architects and designers were reacting to the over-ornamentation of the past. And along comes the Great Depression. And combined, there's a move to modern style and mass production. Think of IKEA of today, but it's happening in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. And in the USA, after World War II, there's a need for new housing, affordable housing, but also affordable furniture and furnishings. And no longer is there the riches for handcrafted ironwork. The exception is up here with colonial revival. There's a market after World War II for early American ironwork. Of course, we did not have the damages of the two world wars, as did Europe. We did not have the economic impacts of the wars, other than the 10 years of the Great Depression. But even with the Great Depression, there was a move towards modern style. That's a long answer for you, Patrick.
Yeah, it is. I will do my best to summarize it in German. And I assume anyway, most of the participants understand English. So in German, ja, John ist selber ausgebildet oder hat Ingenieurswissenschaften studiert und nicht Kunst. Deswegen ist das nur eine persönliche Meinung. Der Einfluss war auf jeden Fall anders als in Europa, auch weil der Schaden anders war, also nicht so verheerend, und abgesehen von der großen Depression gab es nicht so viel, was nach Neuem bedurft hätte. dadurch, dass aber besonders nach dem Zweiten Weltkrieg, viele neue Häuser gebaut worden sind, gab es eine größere Nachfrage nach Ware, die für viele Leute auch bezahlbar war. Und dadurch wurde der Markt für handgeschmiedete Eisenwaren der wurde kleiner. Mit Ausnahme von dem Wiederbeleben der Kolonialzeit-Eisenwaren. Das sieht man dann auch in der entsprechenden Spalte auf der Infotafel. Und dafür war immer ein Markt da. Is there a thing like historic preservation in the US? In Germany, a lot of gates, etc., need to be refurbished by blacksmiths. Genau, so I translate to German. Gibt es das Erhalten von historischen Eisenwaren in Deutschland? Viele Tore und Ähnliches müssen durch Schmiede restauriert und renoviert werden.
There is historic preservation, but it's very limited. There are a few blacksmiths of my age who do restoration. And it's usually of the work of Samuel Yelling, where his gates have been exposed to the weather for 100 years, 70 years. There is also a fairly new college in South Carolina devoted to the building trades, traditional building trades, blacksmithing, stonework, woodworking, and the like. And those student graduates will be ready to do restoration work. But we do not have that many hand-wrought gates outside in the United States.
Es gibt ein paar Schmiede ungefähr in Johns Alter, die Sachen restaurieren oder renovieren. Es gibt aber gar nicht so viel alte Eisenwaren. Also häufig geht das dann auf Arbeiten von Samuel Yellin zurück. Aber ansonsten gibt es nicht so viel, was da zu bearbeiten wäre. Es gibt allerdings in South Carolina, I think you said, neuerdings eine Universität oder eine Schule, die sich damit beschäftigt, Sachen zu renovieren und wieder aufzuarbeiten in den verschiedenen Gewerken, die es da gibt, sprich, wie heißt das denn, Steinmetze, Schreiner, Zimmermänner und eben auch Schmiede. Und da ist da gibt es auch Menschen, auch Interessierte, die sich damit beschäftigen. Is there a big market for blacksmith products? For instance, in Holland, the market for restoration is very thin and only few blacksmiths have profits for this volume. So translated into German, gibt es in den USA einen großen Markt für Schmiedewaren? In den Niederlanden, also in Holland zum Beispiel, ist der Markt für Restaurierung von Eisenwaren sehr, sehr dünn und nur wenige Schmiede können da drin Profit machen, also können damit arbeiten, davon leben.
There is economic opportunity in North America for blacksmiths to do, I believe, new work. The significant profit making would be in new gates, new grills, this is in the category of architectural metalwork. And one reason is because in USA we have many rich clients who are willing and ready to pay for custom work. It really takes the business mind. A blacksmith needs the business mind, plus the tools and equipment, But usually the blacksmiths here in the United States want to be by themselves and not have employees. So that limits the type of company.
In den USA ist der Markt hauptsächlich in neuen Eisenwaren, sprich zum Beispiel Tore oder Geländer oder Fenstergitter oder ähnliches, weil es einige reichere Kunden gibt, die sich sowas auch leisten können. Allerdings sind die meisten Schmiede, also dafür bedarf es aber einerseits dem Geschäftsverständnis und andererseits natürlich den Fähigkeiten eines Schmiedes und des Werkzeuges. Und das kommt nicht so häufig zusammen. Viele Schmiede wollen auch alleine arbeiten in ihren Werkstätten und keine Angestellten haben. Und das limitiert natürlich die Arbeiten, die man ausführen kann. I have a question. You said you are working on an e-book about your not only your mentors, but smiths in general, who like in relation to this wall mural. And is this like, are you working on this alone? Is this like open? Do you need help with this work, or how is this going to proceed? So I briefly translate to German. Ja, du hast ein Buch erwähnt, ein E-Book, an dem du arbeitest. Und meine Frage ist, arbeitest du daran alleine? Gibt es da Hilfe, die da benötigt wird? Oder ja, wie gestaltet sich die Arbeit an diesem Buch? So, the answer.
I have used Facebook to request names of notable blacksmiths to be added here. And that has been helpful. And I'll continue to do the same. Again, the focus in this body is North America. And it may be that in Europe, or in one country in Europe, you wish to do the same for your blacksmiths. So these are all USA, but here's Manfred Bredal.
Mhm.
Okay. Because he was an influence in USA, as is Richard Quinnell. So I do request contribution, Patrick, through Facebook to date.
So I translate this. Der Fokus liegt auf den USA und genau, vielleicht möchte jemand in Europa oder in einem bestimmten Land in Europa oder so eine ähnliche Arbeit angehen. Allerdings gibt es da verschiedene Leute, wie zum Beispiel Manfred Bredol, den er gerade genannt hat, oder den Kollegen danach, irgendwas mit Quindley. Da ist auf jeden Fall, wenn ich das richtig verstanden. So you're open for input on the people who are like from Europe, right?
Yes.
Ja, genau. Also wenn da, ja, John ist da auch offen für Beiträge aus Europa. That's how I would translate. So würde ich das übersetzen. That's how I would translate it. Yeah, thank you for the answer. Maybe we can start something like this in Europe also. Who knows? Vielleicht können wir sowas in Europa auch machen. Mal sehen. There has been one last question, and this is, how long does an apprenticeship take in the US? Wie lange dauert eine Lehrlingschaft in den USA?
That is an issue in the USA. We do not have the history of the guild system. We had schools with standards 100 years ago, but not now. So the direct answer, there is not an apprenticeship program in the USA. We do have in Urbana a curriculum which has 3 levels for learning blacksmithing and then being accomplished. That has a British influence. classical English ironwork. And the Abana website discusses the curriculum under education. But there is no formal apprenticeship program. Many young smiths learn through YouTube and through the many schools and through the many Abana groups across the USA and North America, Canada included.
Ja, es gibt inzwischen keine feste Ausbildung mehr oder wie man das aus Deutschland kennt, weil es dieses Gildensystem nicht gibt und nie gab, aus dem sich das entwickelt hat hier. Es gibt allerdings ein paar Schulen, die einzelne Kurse anbieten. Und es gibt inzwischen von Abana ein Curriculum, was einen durch insgesamt 3 verschiedene Level als Schmied halt führt. Das ist mit einem britischen Einfluss. Viele junge Schmiede lernen heutzutage entweder von YouTube oder aus Kursen